So we are not concerned with the mere ideas of man, and all of a sudden everybody knows everything. They know more than the prophet. And we've heard some of that, and I am very careful, and we'll say rhetoric, because that's all it is, rhetoric. Most of them that come up with that can't prove it, and they operate in a venue that is not religious. Okay? When the prophet first organized our group, he organized us as a civic corporation. That means civically, it's okay to file affidavit after affidavit and get involved with 1929, this, that, and we want to approach it that way as a civic organization. But when he changed the organization to religious, everything we do is religious. So we look at all of our actions as religious. Even proclaiming Moorish American is our religion. It's a religious corporation. The members of this corporation are required to say and do certain things and to call themselves certain things, and that certain thing is a Moorish American policy. These are one of the many tenets of our requirements as being a corporate citizen of this religious corporation. So we don't approach everything civically. We approach whatever's going on in this government and any place else with a religious feeling, because we are a religious corporation. Now, what many Moorish Americans out there who advocate this and that and so forth and so on, they haven't had the opportunity to read or comprehend the editorial that the prophet sent out when he said he was forced to make changes. We didn't make those changes, he did. And the changes he made set the organizational structure in place as a central authority. In every organization, you've got to have central authority. If you don't, you have chaos. And right now, amongst our people, we have chaos. Some saying that they're all for sovereignty. Some saying that for sovereignty, they don't want to drive without any license. They don't want to do this, they don't want to do that. And they approach these issues through civic ways. We don't approach anything what we have to do civically in concerns of this government and any government we live in. It could be Mexico or Cuba. We approach it as religious. That's it. Because when he was forced to make changes, he stated emphatically, one amongst many things in there, that for those who don't know where the seat of power is, you know, who he had put in place to act as a supreme, as him, as he said, as a supreme body to act. No group out there has the official, has to act officially for the Moorish Science Club of America unless they get the authorization from the central authority that the prophet put in place, which is the supreme grand body. Some people said he dissolved it, but there's no proof. When we check the records and check how the prophet put it up, and he even said it, all power, not some of it, is in those who he...
Is vested now the prophet and those who are appointed to act as the supreme body.
As the same prophet, the supreme body. Without a central authority, you got chaos. So there are those like, and I'm going to say it, the Kirkman Beys and the Gibbons Hill and all them, they didn't want to see the central authority in place because they never wanted togetherness. For some reason, or the entities they represented did not want to see that. To see that meant unity. To see that meant forward. To see that meant the prophet's plan, divine plan of ages was marching on strong, untattered. So to destroy the central authority, or to control or destroy it, was their design. Which is why Kirkman Bey put Supreme Grand Advisor and Moderator. Even though that was not a place on the Supreme Grand Council for that, he created that. First, the first word is supreme. So that he could not only sit on the Supreme Grand Council, but he could be over the Supreme Grand Council and over the Supreme Grand Sheikh and Chairman and anybody else. Even over the prophet, if you will. He could have said advisor and moderator, but he could not get on the Supreme Grand Council because he was not appointed that position. Now some people say, well, the Supreme Grand Council is no more. If you got a Supreme Grand Sheikh and Chairman, you got a Supreme Grand Council because that person is the one who fills those vacancies. Then and fills them now. If you got one, he fills those vacancies. I appoint him We have open vacancies now in the Supreme Grand Council that we have to fill. That's how you ensure the continuity of the organization. It's the same as the College of Cardinals. When the Pope passes, the Cardinals all get together and they select somebody else to be the Pope. So it's different from what they call the snakehead organization. Cut off the head of the snake and then they just go. It's not set up. And many of our people on our side of the nation, they don't understand. Some of them are good Moors. They're good. But they haven't had the opportunity to get an understanding of what the prophet wanted, how he wanted, and how he said it should be done. I was one of them at one time. I didn't know. I did not know. I didn't know. But when the opportunity was presented to me to know the unauthorized temple I was at, I left and came to temple number 1 and gave everything I had, and still doing it. I wasn't one of those who went back and forth. I was sold. I was sold. And one of the purposes of reading this history is not so much to tell you, come on over. If you come, fine. If you don't, fine. That's between you and Allah. We're not trying to recruit by reading these records. What we're trying to do is to give our people the opportunity to have access to the truth. We're always going to make our own choice, but to have access to the truth, which many of our people did not have. And so every year during convention, we found out that these Moorish American archive reviews are helpful for them and for some of our scholars too, who do nothing but study the history of the Moorish Science Temple of America. That's what we do. Because inquiring minds want to know. Mentally ill is forgotten about by most groups, so they don't want to even mention him. They don't want to bring him up. Because to bring him up would have to bring up the whole truth about our organization and how many of those culprits tried to sweep that under the rug. Yes. By sweeping that under the rug, you'd be like running around with no head. You know, you just capturing stuff. You know, we don't believe, let me just rephrase that. There may be something to not paying taxes. Legally, as citizens. There may be something to it. We don't know. But it may be something we should investigate and look at as a whole. That's right. But if you got a little group, we don't pay nothing. Oh, you know, here, put them up. Our goal is to mobilize all of our people at once and speak with one hand and one heart, like the prophet intended us to do. A central authority for any corporation is necessary. And if you hide that and try to operate on your own, you're going to be doomed like some of the letters we read here. The prophet was very strict about his organization. He said, you do anything other than my way, you're going to be in trouble. And that should be a good lesson for anybody who's sitting out here now who's not doing things the prophet did.
Look at this chart here. It says Moorish Holy Temple of Science of the World. Different from Moorish Holy Temple of Science of America. By the way, no focus. Of the world. When I came from 957 East 75th Street, which was not authorized, but I cut my teeth there, as Austin Bey said, I learned a lot. They talked about this chart. And there's a new Moor, he says, oh, Baba Bey had that chart, he cut it up into small pieces. I said, oh no, it's all lost. I had found out about something like that. I didn't know. So when I got in, I became ultimately the keeper of the archives for this concept. Okay? Of the world. And all of the signs are the same. The reason why we wear the red badge and not the black badge is because it is one of the 10 wonders of the world. Figure number 1. This is what the prophet was. We don't have evidence that we all should wear a black badge, but we do have evidence that a certain group of Moors wore a black badge that the prophet himself put on their head. He didn't put it on our head, and we don't know why. Sister Baby Hill, who was a little girl when the prophet was here, not to really sidetrack on that, we asked her because she was there. She said there were several of them, he put a black badge on their head. And they don't know why. He never told them. Well, this afternoon, you're going to find out some things that the prophet never told anyone. But it is true and it is heart-shaking. Not today. We're going to find out something else. Something else. We're going to find that out. And you will be amazed like I was. Anyway, that month of August, Millie Hill knew that he had to do what the prophet told him to do. Because before the prophet passed, some of you have read, Millie Hill, he called Millie Hill to his chambers, right?
Yes, well.
And he spoke to Millie Hill to what?
Mighty God.
You already got one. What up there? You said?
Real quick, what does mighty God is?
You might get into that right now. Okay for that. Because I want to keep the flow going. Some of these people don't know as much as you know, though. So let's get an opportunity to learn. That month of August, one of the things the prophet told him to do is in our time, is to change the convention from October to September. Millie writes back and says he's going to do it. He writes another person. He said the only problem he has is that we should make a law. If he hadn't made a law, you would see someone trying to hold a convention in October. This is correspondence from our time. He also told him to go around and correct those charges. Because remember, in 1928, the prophet changed the organization from a civic organization to a what? Religion. The name changed. There was now what used to be the Moorish Holy Temple of Science, now became what? Great. So what he did, if you look at this chart, you can come close if you like to. There's a piece of paper that's going across here, a strip, with Moorish Science Temple of America on it. And everywhere in the body, in the guts here, you see little strips of paper typed with Moorish Science Temple of America. And at the bottom, you see the signature of Emil Hill. And you see the year, 1929, which is the second annual convention. So Millie Hill wanted to make sure in September he did exactly what the prophet told him to do, to correct those charts. Obedience, and not doing what the prophet told him to do. And there's records in the second annual convention, the minutes rather, that stated they came to the convention belligerent and not allowing Millie Hill to correct the charge. They had signed by the prophet. All those charges are defunct. Because this is not our corporate name. Islam? Our corporate name is what? Who said these? Who said it first? I'm getting low in my bones. Moorish Science Temple of America is our corporate name. Now, the prophet told me, you're going to have to go around to the temple and do what I ain't doing. Sign the charter. Why would he sign the charter? Because he was the first Supreme Grand Chief Chairman. That's his job. And indicated in Act 1 of the additional marks. You can be removed from office or put under heavy restriction by who? The Grand Chief. Prophet or the Grand Chief. The confidence that the prophet put in that office was also because he knew he had to have someone to feed his flock. And he told Israel that. Feed my land. Did he not say that? Feed my flock. So, if there is a charter out there that someone claims that they are the Moorish Science Temple of America, subordinate temple, and is not signed by a Supreme Grand Chief and Chairman, in this case, the only one that I know of his discipline signed by nearly it, but of course, when he went around, he signed the rest of them. We don't know. Our goal is to bring all of the original temples back.
I can read this without looking. Islam, baby, how you doing, darling? May 7, 1931. May 7, 1931. Many of you want to know what happened. Who did it? Wrong. May 12th. May 12th, 1930. Mr. Millie Eel, Moorish Science Temple of America Incorporation, Chicago, Illinois. Dear sir, kindly acknowledging your receipt of $120 for professional services rendered in the case of Moorish Science Temple of America Incorporation by C. Kirkman Bey versus E. Millie Eel. This is to further state that the verdict was entered in favor of the defendant, which was yourself, E. Millie Eel, by Judge Eberhard in the Municipal Court, Room 913. I was right. May 7, 1931. Case number 1746990. Anybody ever heard of this? Anybody ever read it? Ever seen it? Come up and look at it, if you desire. What this saying is that this is where confusion came in. Kirkman Bey wanted to sue the Moorish Science Temple of America, saying that he was head and he was a Supreme Grand Advisor and Monterey. So, we talking about Moorish American history now. Y'all ready to go deep?
Islam.
Let's go deep. Remember I said earlier, let me get a drink of my cold drink. My ginger beer. Draw.
Is that paper there the original?
It's a copy. Original, we'll keep somewhere else because the lawyer said, as long as we had the original, we don't have a problem. We can open up both guns. This not Roger Brewington, man. Roger Brewington Bay.
Roger, brother man.
Brother man. Brother man with the clan. Shall we continue? It's a whole lot of things. Shall we continue? Big Terry Bay, you got it? Remember I said earlier that in 1929, August, that Millie Eel was dead centered on doing what the prophet told him to do, going around to the temples and correcting their charter from Moorish Holy Temple of Science of the World to Moorish Science Temple of America. He particularly did that. We did the Moorish Guide and we clocked all of his visits and how long he was there. And we got all them letters to show where he was. He was moving every month. Every week he was moving. In that whole week of August, while he was gone, not the Grand Body, but a group of Moors who was already part of the coup that was planned to move the prophet out, inspired by people like Lomax Bey, to turn the movement around. Now, why? Let me just give you a bit of history so you can follow the logic, the line coming along where we're going. And this took a lot of time to put all this stuff together. Why would anyone want to overthrow the movement? Why would anyone want to destroy the movement or control the movement?
Was in charge of the situation?
Yes. And why would they want to take charge of the situation?
So that's what the money is.
That's where the money is? What else?
That's where the power of authority is, and that's where the money is.
Okay, you're talking about money. Let's go with power and authority. You say power and authority. What kind of power and authority would we have had to do what with that was so bad?
Political power.
Take over the government.
To unite? Who said unite? Dan? We got the same thing. Not only that.
To direct the Negro, black, and colored damage that was done to our
Yes.
people.
Yes. Remember the Free National Constitution of 1774? The Articles of Association? The prophet says since that Constitution has never been changed, there's no need for the 14th and 15th Amendment. Didn't he say that? Many people didn't want you to know that Constitution was never changed. Who were these people who didn't want you to know that Constitution was changed? Were they the European nations who put a mark upon the Moors?
Of course. That's received.
They were the European nations who put those marks upon the Moors. They never wanted you to know that it changed. They wanted you to think that you needed the 14th and 15th Amendment for economic reasons, because when you read the Articles of Association, a large part of that is talking about what? Commerce. Commerce is money, molasses, tobacco, all those things that they were growing here for free labor, and we was doing it too. If you check Monroe's Bennett's book before the Mayflower, it tells you that. That many of us own plantations too. So it was and is and will be about the money. So it was to their best economic interest. One of the ones who was one of the main culprits whom it was suited best to their commerce and monetary issues was none other than Julius. Why? He was
Jewish Zionist philanthropist.
come on now. He was that, but what was he in the economic sense? No.
Hold on now.
What you say? Where you want to have this one?
What did you say, Matthew?
Tell him again, Matthews Bay.
He was president of Civic.
Yes.
What the Sears got to do with it?
Sears was the largest catalog retail in the country, if not in the world. You could even buy a house from Sears. And they would ship you the wood, the brick, am I right? The plans, they would ship you everything. Sears was the main one who started catalog retailing. Julius Rosenwald came in after being, we should read about him, Google him you all, after being head of his own clothing tailoring company. That's what he did. He amassed riches with his uncles. And he had the opportunity to come in to Sears as a partner and bought his partner out. So he controlled massive amount of money. He was a multi-billionaire also. He had a strong connection with the Polish Jewish community in Chicago. Did you know that Chicago is the largest Polish Jewish community in the world?
Yes.
Also, the name on the back of your questionnaire, Salom Jakowski, is a Polish Jew who had political connections to Julius Rosenwald. Did you know the Field Museum of Natural History and the Museum of Science and History Field is named after Marshall Field? Do you know who put up the money to build that? Julius Rosenwald. Who finances most of your major Asiatic colleges in the South? Julius Rosenwald. Why? So he can control the curriculum, even in Cleveland. He was the bag man for what would be known then as the Trilateral Commission. Dukes and duchesses, people of head of states, bypassed the White House to come to Chicago to see him. He's buried in Rose Hill Cemetery, one of the largest cemeteries in Chicago, that is well guarded. And his name was supposed to be Rohill, named after the person, the European who owned the land. And they promised him they would name the cemetery after him, but they reneged on him. Now that we've drawn an illustration of Julius Rosenwald, let's find out who his right-hand man was.
Shame.
What we have to do, we must do, is to grab hold to the spirit of cooperation. You run across a person who says they're Moorish American Muslim, the first thing that you should not do is not to argue with them about what the prophet said. It's not necessary. What you gonna argue about? He still said the same thing. So what's the beef? What's the real beef? That you want to be in front? You want to be the first one? For what? Guess what? I got some news for you. Gerard is the first one. He's always been the first one. It ain't gonna never be no first one but Noble Gerard Lee. He said, for those of you who don't know where the seat of power was vested, I didn't say that. He said the seat of power is vested in I, the prophet, and those who are appointed to act as in what? I didn't say that. He said that. So if you mad at me for following the lineage of duality, then you mad at him. Because I never said that. He said that. He said that each said temple must be approved by him. So how can you hang out your shingles and you ain't never been approved by him?
That's right. That's right.
Everybody wants to be the grand poobah. If you were serious about the complete liberation of our people, you would groove with the spirit of cooperation.